Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for giving me your time. As I was introduced, my name is Andre, mobility consulting firm called Ecolution Consulting. We're active, among other things, in the hospitality industry. But today I don't really want to speak about myself. I want to speak about one of our really exciting projects. And that is, excuse me, I'm just getting to grips with this technology. And that is the Hotel Verde at the Cape Town International Airport. The client gave us the brief that we need to help him develop Africa's greenest hotel, and at the same time showcase that luxury and sustainability are not mutually exclusive. So those were the two main tasks. You can see at the top corner, that's really where we want to head, and I want to just share with you briefly what steps we took to get there. We devised the concept on three main pillars: construction, the technical installations, to all make sure that those facilitate as sustainable operation policies as possible. I'm going to delve into a couple of examples on each of those three pillars. On the construction policy side, for example, we analyzed one of the big impacts that a building such as this one would have. So we tried to make as little concrete as possible. A normal concrete slab in this case was required to be 300 for the worst case loads, but experience, so why give that the same thickness of concrete? Because we want to make sure the construction is simple, quick, but we didn't want to waste the concrete at the same time. So what we did, letting them into the concrete, they displaced concrete, and we saved over 1,200 tons of concrete in that building alone. As a follow-on benefit, the slabs were now lighter, the structure became lighter, and all the downstream structural elements could be scaled down. Other aspects where we didn't just reduce our impact, but also is by reusing materials. For example, clean building rubble or tile offcuts were reused in the Gabion walls or in backfilling. Indoor environmental quality is very important. It is the space, the space that is in a building is designed not for the sake of it, but to be a comfortable space for guests and staff alike. So making sure that it is as comfortable as possible was obviously a very key element in the design. Among other aspects, we looked at all the paints, coatings, to make sure that the chemicals that off-gas out of those materials over months and years are as benign as possible. A very interesting tool that was applied during the entire project was the so-called energy model. It's a 3D simulation of the building as it is designed, and it gives the ability to the design team to analyze different interventions: insulation, glazing, other equipment like HVAC and lighting, by plugging that into the model and see what those options would have in results in its energy intensity. Quickly, we were able to see what type of insulation had what return on investment, the HVAC loads as a result, and obviously did the same analysis with other interventions. Very important, if you're building a green hotel, you can't just paint the facade green, you also need to make sure that it is in a landscaped or a beautified area. So even though this is the footprint of the building, the precinct was really expanded a bit. This piece of land by the from the city of Cape Town and beautified also to make sure that the impact of the hotel isn't just felt on its own property, to make sure that the whole precinct is up. Natural ventilation. Many basement parking areas require forced ventilation to get rid of exhaust fumes from cars. Design allowed us the natural winds in the area to blow air down the ramp and out of so-called natural ventilation shafts. This resulted in about 99% of the time the forced ventilation, the mechanical fans, are actually off. But there are carbon monoxide sensors to monitor that, and should the concentration of fumes become elevated, the fans would kick in nonetheless. Right, on to the technical installations. A lot was done there. I'm an engineer by training, so this was really where I found a lot of inspiration and a lot of excitement. Done in the guest rooms, from the low flow shower heads to a master key, shutting off the power to the room, any others, to a regenerator. If you can imagine, the elevator is connected via steel counterweight. The counterweight is about half the weight, or is equal to the weight of a half-full cabin. Now, if the cabin is entirely loaded full, down and the counterweight up, and wants to pull the cabin up. So in those two conditions, when the cabin is full, going down, gravity is effectively doing the work. The motor is driven, acts as a generator, and one of the best inventions in this whole building, and just often overlooked in other properties or other installations. A very interesting one, before the basement was built, after the excavation, a geothermal field was inserted. It consists of 100 boreholes, they each about 65 meters deep into the ground. A pipe was inserted into them from the top. Can't give you a photo of what's underground, unfortunately. They were connected together in a very specific way horizontally, and then tied to the ground source heat pump system, which now becomes a integrated and very energy cooling and providing domestic hot water for the entire hotel. There are 3 wind turbines outside the front door. They generate renewable energy, but they also make a big statement on behalf of the hotel. It really screams green hotel. It also wind power industry. We believe, probably at a bigger scale than this, but we believe that the wind power industry is part of the solution to our energy crisis. So we want to engage visitors and guests in the discussion around all of these technologies. They're also photovoltaic on the roof. Some of them are on the facade, and there they don't just generate renewable energy, but they also provide shading to the bedroom windows below. So at the same time, they're also reducing the heat load that enters the room and another intervention is, sorry, not Ray water, but this system doesn't rely on any chemicals. It uses the water that into these tanks, and bacteria that naturally occur on everyone's skin or everyone's hair wash down with this water. The colonies of these bacteria are encouraged to grow by giving them oxygen, and once they get to a certain size, they break down soaps or skin particles, and that settles as once over use colorless and odorless water to flush the toilets with. So the reason for using recycled grey water to flush the toilets is because the concept of using potable water or drinking water to flush down toilets, processed water to drinking water quality more robust than us. In this case, what we are doing for irrigation, for down any hardscapes, we're collecting that, because guests typically don't like it when you take their car and convert it into a boat. But that water can be, make sure we don't use as much drinking water from the taps. All right, so moving on. Operational practices. One of the things I just want to point out is Africa's first. A couple of the things that I mentioned earlier already should show you that the impact is minimal. Of energy, a fraction of a little bit of an impact, and that little bit a carbon offsetting partner project in Zimbabwe. Important hotel. If you don't keep your guests happy, soon you won't have a sustainable business. So a couple of the things that the guest is involved in these more sustainable operating or take part. They're not in their face about any of these green interventions, but they are able to learn, to ask, and to engage, and are also incentivized when they participate. So if they don't use their room's own air conditioner, they receive an in-house currency. It's the equivalent of 5 rand, about 50 US cents, a little bit less at the moment. And yeah, it's different. Yes. Anyway, that's a different. This is incentivized by not using the room's own air conditioner, by reusing towels and linen for a second day. This is what this reuse the previous guest towel. I'm kidding with that. As I said earlier, we're trying to showcase that luxury and sustainability are not mutually exclusive. They are incentivized if they power generating gym equipment. It's power and is pushed back into the building, and by using the eco. There's also much more educational information on the IPTV system also to read up more about most of these, or all of these. Then a very fun one I find is the weekly Earth Hour. Many of you have probably heard about the WWF's Earth Hour on an annual basis. It was just earlier this month. And this is actually rolled out at the hotel on a weekly basis. All right, some other aspects. And lettuces and other greenery is grown on-site with so-called aquaponics units, wood-fired pizza, on-site water filtration and bottling, even carbonation of the water. Obviously a lot of transport and waste impact is reduced with that. I was also asked to talk about the budget or the financial aspect of this project. Developer or the owner of the building, I spent about 20 million rand, 1.7 million US dollars on all these sustainability interventions. We only attributed the direct costs, so the total cost of the wind turbines, and, for example, or the premium of what the eco pool costs more than a typical pool, or what the double glazing costs more than typical glazing. So a very fair budget, about 20.2 million rands, and that's about 10.8% of the development budget. So it's not as high as some people might have thought, and it's also not as low. Not as high because the industry has made good progress, technologies are available, professionals are available. But it's a bit higher than some of you might have thought, and that's probably because this is the flagship hotel of a future hotel chain. So many interventions are there to be tested, to be perhaps reconsidered if this is not a very good return on investment for future rollout. As I mentioned earlier, about 70% energy reduction versus a typical Cape Town hotel. On the water side, about 35% benchmark from the United States. We didn't actually have any comparative data for South Africa or Cape Town, and many other benefits. One, media and PR exposure. As I said, for the sustainable initiatives, but because these initiatives became the cornerstone of the marketing and PR campaign, it resulted in about 32 million rands or 2.6 million US dollars of free exposure. Reporting about it, news articles, video inserts of all nature, because they want to tell the public about this. Their readers, their viewers are interested about it. Not really expecting huge out. All right, so the goal was to develop Africa's greenest hotel. I believe that's been done. Perhaps independent stamps of approval. The building has achieved a heritage, that's environmental management rating system in South Africa, or based in South Africa, platinum certification, the highest accolade possible in that rating system. And very importantly for us is the leadership in energy and environmental design, the United States Green Building Council's independent and internationally recognized green building rating system, also a platinum certification level. Many awards internationally and locally in South Africa, some in Hamburg, some in London, and most recently the Green Hotelier Award for Africa and the Middle East. So we're very proud of many of those achievements. And that was the road to Africa's greenest hotel. If there's any questions, now I just want to make a brief point. The hotel opened 18 months ago. Very successful hospitality, or the hotel there its occupancy rates in February and March, so very successful, I believe, is a fair statement. And what has now happened as a result is that this concept of sustainable hotels or thrivable hotels, which looks at and extra lenses to the business that is being rolled out at the moment to the rest of the African continent and results in lower water consumption and many talked about briefly just now. So that is the brand of that hotel chain, Verdi Hotels, and we're looking forward to becoming a market leader in thrivable hospitality and investing towards the future.